Realized Vol obviously having a decent uptick of about 20 points, taking Bitcoin from 30 to 50, and then taking Ethereum from about 50 to 70. So a nice uptick there in realized. Um, Actually, Ethereum's drop today is probably taking it even higher than that. But that's probably not included in the number. Looking at the OHLC charts, they were pretty well behaved last week, respecting implied ranges, but last 2 days has just been a bloodbath, right? We breached the downside and then we've done it again in style. I mean, the Ethereum moves pretty much 3 times the implied move on the downside, which is brutal, right? So that's clearly knocked it out of the park in terms of anyone who owned any gamma in these things. You can see the curves have inverted pretty aggressively. Front end, I mean, weeklies for this week are up like 30, 20 to 30 points. But if we go out to sort of end of November, it's looking like more in the ballpark of 8 to 12 points here. So, but the curves are clearly inverting, which may give you an opportunity if you're a vol seller to want to sell some upside vol, because in a bounce back, we are probably going to see a bit of a pullback in volatility, depending on how violent the snapback is. Here's the time series on the vol and the skew. As you can see, usual going steep contango into the weekend, and now we flip back into inversion there with the red being the front weeklies, pretty much above everything else on the curve. And then Ethereum's even more pronounced on that front there. Skew wise, obviously put skew exploding in the front end. This 1 week stuff kind of hitting around somewhere around 10 vols for puts. If we look at the term structure of skew, you can see very steep, going from about 4 vols for puts in Bitcoin last week to about 10 now in the front end. And actually the whole curve shifting down, seeing that back end now looking around 1 to 2 vols for puts as well, even if you go all the way out to next September. So, pretty clear where people are willing to pay for protection. And that's probably because there's a lot of instos in that, like, who are quite well invested in Bitcoin now and need to protect the downside. Ethereum front end going crazy, 15 vols for puts as well, but very quickly moving back into call premium. Not as quickly as it was, still getting dragged down here for this year's expiry. So December there, dropping there by a good few points. But as we go into January and beyond, we are back in call skew. So the options market right now, from a skew perspective, is saying, okay, this year doesn't look like we're going to get our explosive upside, but it's still game on for next year, particularly in Ethereum, where we still think this thing has got some unfinished business above 5,000. That's what the skew is kind of saying to me in Ethereum right now. And then closing out, relative value, an explosion of the front end vols. Ethereum trading more than 40 vols over in the front. And that cross rate breaking down, it was like chopping around near the downtrend resistance support zone. It was just kind of hovering in that 0.036. Well, it's got smashed down to 0.032. So clearly back in the downtrend zone. So the chart not looking very pretty on Ethereum versus Bitcoin. The vol spread obviously exploding on the back of it, as I mentioned. 40 vols in the front, but even the 1 month is above 30 vols now, whilst the back end is pretty stable there in the low 20s. Relative skew, as we kind of already alluded to, front end puts on Ethereum went nuts, even more than Bitcoin did. But after you go about 2 weeks out, you've got a more neutral balance between skew in both assets. And then as you go into next year, a clear bias towards Ethereum upside in 2026. The only thing I would say with Ethereum, this explosion that we've seen in vol and this drop we've seen in spot, it does kind of back up the idea that these higher levels in Ethereum vol of 20 plus above Bitcoin are here to stay for the foreseeable future. Because Ethereum is showing us that it can be pretty wild in both directions, and do a lot more than Bitcoin can, basically. So I think structurally that spread in vol is going to stick around, and is proving itself to be quite sticky right now. All right, guys. So it's been quite a week. Conclusion, really, I do think we are getting close to the end of the correction in Bitcoin now. I was looking for this final C wave lower. We're getting it. It's always hard to call exactly where the lows are going to be in this thing. But, if you had some hedges in place and you weren't fully invested and you're waiting for a dip, I think having a little nibble here at 100K makes a lot of sense. That's what I'm doing anyway. And I would probably want to add a bit more if we got anywhere near 90k as well, and I'd take that as a bit of a gift, basically. For me, the long term picture is still intact, and I think this stuff has got a hell of a long way to go on the upside, right? So I'd be using this opportunistically to actually accumulate, right? And I think a lot of the kind of diehard crypto fans, like people who've kind of been converted to really see this as a long-term debasement play, and kind of look through the noise a little bit. I think they will be stepping in and accumulating in that area if we do get down there. All right. Anyway, I'll leave it with you for this week. That's my update for Crypto Vol. Catch you back here next week. Cheers.
Hi everyone, thanks for making it to the end of the video. Remember, this is just a little taster of what we do at Options Insight. To get access to all our research, including my in-depth vol market insights, flows and positioning report, and my portfolio trades, and a whole lot more, you can sign up at options-insight.com. I'll see you soon.